Welcome back to Hunting the Haunted here on the Paranormal Network, where we dissect and discuss famous, infamous, and not so well-known cases of paranormal activity, ranging from hauntings to alien abductions and Bigfoot sightings. I'm your co-host, Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Peter Renn, and this time we're talking about the careers of paranormal investigators, psychics, demonologists, Ed and Lorrain Warren.
Now, before we get into this, we acknowledge that the opinions we're about to present may be contrary to what a lot of people in the paranormal field might hold. Neither Peter or I have met Ed and Lorrain Warren. We're here to tell their story, but also point out some points of view that some of you might not agree with. Thank you all for watching Hunting the Haunted. And I ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now, like this video, and click on the bell, notified each time a new video goes up. Now back to the show. I come from a journalism background, and to me, the point of journalism is to provide both sides of the story. Now, Peter, what do you know about the Warrens and some of the controversies surrounding them?
So just as an overall, without going to specifics of cases and stuff like that, over the past, I think 3-4 decades, they've had a number of investigations where they've been a part of. They've always been what's been perceived as been on the press quite a lot and been on interview shows and stuff like that. So there's no doubt that they're definitely chasing the stardom in that respect, and they very much enjoy having camera crews following them around. There's been a number of cases as well, top level cases like the Amityville case and the Enfield case as well, where their accounts doesn't seem to jive in relation to what exactly happened. So I guess essentially this is what we're here to discuss.
As you pointed out, Peter, the Warrens were American paranormal investigators and authors who were associated with prominent cases of alleged hauntings and paranormal activity, particularly in the 70s and the 80s. Ed was a self-taught and self-professed demonologist, author, and lecturer. Lorraine said she was a clairvoyant and light medium who worked closely with her husband. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. They authored many books about the paranormal and their private investigations into various reports of paranormal activity. They claim to have investigated well over 10,000 cases during their careers. The Warrens were also among the first investigators in the Amityville haunting. They also investigated the Annabelle doll and the haunting of the Perron family, both of which became the basis for the Conjuring series of films. In fact, several of their most popular and documented cases became feature films or TV movies. So as you said, Peter, chasing the stardom.
Pretty much. I mean, essentially, I've read 3 of their books. Well, not 3 of their books that they personally wrote. 3 books were written by three different authors in relation to their ventures. There is a lot of mention about demons. Their whole career seems to stem around that term. There is mention, obviously, going back to the Enfield poltergeist incident as well, where they refer to that indeed as a poltergeist, as a demon as well. So essentially, they were the original Zap Baggins in relation to that. For the investigations themselves, there's a lot of fabrication, and I'm not here to pull chunks out of their reputation because they're no longer with us or anything like that. But the fact of the matter being is that there's a lot of holes in their stories. Going back to the 3 books that I've read Satan's Harvest, The Demonologist, and Ghost Hunters, all by 3 different authors. And there seems to be a number of stories in relation to different investigations that they've had, but there's no apparent trail of people that they talk of in the books. So, for example, there was one about a black priest who allegedly just disappeared off the face of the planet, and that just seems to be continuous in a lot of their books that they're mentioning there, where there doesn't seem to be, I'm not saying credible witnesses, but there is no witnesses that we could refer to that they actually witnessed what the Warrens witnessed themselves.
Yeah, I noticed, because I've read The Demonologist as well, and another one called Werewolf. The Werewolf one was definitely better in terms of it was a documented case in the media, very documented in the media. So there's that to fall back on. But in The Demonologist, you're right. There's no like what we're trying to do here, other side to the story. It's them going in, giving an account, and that's it. And even in the Hans Holzer books, there's other people you could track down, or even news or magazine articles that you could find to back up that story and see if they're even telling the truth. The Warrens didn't do that.
It is, but in retrospect of the book, the other book that you read as well, it's a documented case which went to the media, but that was a norm of the Warrens, right? That everything was publicized of their ventures and stuff like that, because I guess that they craved that fame, and it's not me speculating. The proof was in the pudding that they enjoyed the fact that cameras were following them around and stuff like that. They enjoyed, interviews on TV and stuff like that. But there's no, there is no credible witnesses that came along, and if all the witnesses or the clients that they've had in the past in all of these cases, there's always seemed to be a disjointed account that's come back from the witnesses or clients on this. In compared to their stories.
Well, and as they pointed out in The Conjuring 2, they were saying they were heavily involved in the Enfield case, whereas in actuality, they weren't even allowed to go inside the house. They were not allowed to be a part of that investigation at all, as we talked about on the previous Hunting the Haunted.
So in retrospect, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Like the name of the team that attended the Enfield poltergeist was the Society of Psychic Research, which is a famous UK-orientated team that have been around for, before I was even born. They were created. The two lead investigators, or whatever rank you want to put them into, that actually attended that case, Guy Leon and Maurice Gross, both turned around and said that the Warrens were not allowed to even step foot through the door because of the reputation they had from the States. So effectively, that just kind of puts a dampener on their whole movie aspect of, well, not their movie, because the movie came out after they passed away, but whoever's generated the movie to generate revenue. And obviously it originally stemmed from Lorraine and Ed Warren, because they said they were actually there, which they weren't.
Well, here's something interesting, Peter. I read a book recently called The World's Most Haunted House by William J. Hall, and it documents the story of the Bridgeport poltergeist. Now, Hall compiled reports on this haunting from the family involved, the police, firefighters, religious personnel, and other witnesses, which goes beyond anything that we've read in any of the Ed and Lorrain Warren books. But the Warrens were involved in this case to some degree, did nothing to help resolve the problem, according to the book that Hall wrote, and stuck the Gooden family with a rather large, long-distance bill. Who was Ed Warren calling? The media. According to this book, the majority of the Warrens' involvement was getting the case media attention first.
So going back to what I was saying before in relation to the Enfield poltergeist, we have this classic case of the Warrens saying one thing and the client or the witnesses and the media saying something completely different in relation to what went on. There's no doubt that they attended the cases. Did they actually benefit, or were they actually a hindrance more than anything else?
Well, let's go over a few of the other cases of note, which includes like Arnie Johnson, who in 1981 was accused of killing his landlord. Ed and Lorraine Warren had been called prior to the killing to deal with the alleged demonic possession of the younger brother of Johnson's fiancée. The Warrens claimed that Johnson was also possessed. At the trial, Johnson attempted to plead not guilty by reason of demonic possession, but was unsuccessful in his plea. Sound familiar? This was the plot of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, in which case he actually won the case in the movie, not had that plea denied. And there was a book in 1983 called The Devil in Connecticut by Gerald Brittle. Now, in 1986, Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived at the Snedeker House, a former funeral home, and proclaimed it to be infested with demons. The case was featured in the 1993 book In a Dark Place, The Story of a True Haunting. A TV film was also produced for the Discovery Channel in 2002. And in 2009, The Haunting in Connecticut came out, and it was very loosely based on the Warrens' version of events, although no Ed and Lorraine Warren were in the film. Also, Pennsylvania residents Jack and Janet Smurl reported their house was disturbed by numerous supernatural phenomena, including sounds, smells, and apparitions. The Warrens became involved and claimed that the Smurl home was occupied by 4 spirits and also a demon that allegedly sexually assaulted both Jack and Janet. The Smurls' version of their story was the subject of a 1986 paperback titled The Haunted, later a TV film of the same name. Now, Peter, you've been doing this for 30 years. lots of cases. You've written 2 books alongside me, and yet we have yet to have any film or TV version made of any of your stuff so far.
Over the course of my career being a paranormal investigator, I've seen and witnessed a lot of things that are not natural and by definition are paranormal. In the case of Ed and Lorrain Warren, if you look back at their era now and to where we are now with TV and media and the upteen amount of TV shows and stuff like that, and the fact that their legacy is carried on with the next generation of Ed's nephew, and I think it's a cousin or something like that as well, that is carrying that Warren legacy on as well. So in relation to the amount of media attention then, and if that transferred over to now, you think that with the amount of cases they actually attended, back then there were actually classed as demonic, where things were being thrown around and people were being possessed and stuff like that. We'd see a lot more solidified evidence on TV than what we would hear about in these books.
No, true. And I mean, we should point out that, Ed and Lorrain Warren were Catholic, highly Catholic, and approached everything from that point of view. So they always came into these cases with that lens. And I think sometimes that's where if you're a believer in that sense, that's what you're going to see around every corner. And if you approach it, say, more like you and I do, from more of a pseudoscientific, skeptical sense, you're less inclined to do it. So that they could almost be called, I guess, from our perspective, victims of their own belief system.
It is, and you're right, because the actual definition of demon is interpreted in different ways from different religions and faiths. But essentially, what they created during their era was a series of stories written, a number of books, a number of movies that have generated from it. That indeed, let's put it into the lens of, if this were all facts. And in relation to where we are with media right now, we'd see a lot more evidence of demonic possession. And I'm not debating as to what they defined it as in the Catholic faith, and how they recorded it in books and how it's been recorded on TV to a certain extent. But we don't. And like I say, the next generation with Ed and Lorraine's family members that have carried that legacy on with the TV shows about haunted objects and stuff like that. We still haven't seen to date what was described back then as the norm. And it's pretty much every case where Ed and Lorrain Warren actually attended, that there was some kind of demon negative case and stuff like that. A few years ago, when Lorraine Warren was attending the TV show with Ryan Buell, The Paranormal State, again, a reflection on all the cases that were described on there. Everything was a demon, and on that show there was really no clear path, and obviously Ryan Buell was a totally different, guy in question with his authenticity as well. And but there was no concrete proof there by definition of the Vatican that there was any demons or any demonic oppression or possession at that time.
No, it's true. They were the Warrens were kind of that tail end of that spiritualist movement too, that Hans Holzer was involved with as well. So, I mean, a part of it, I think, for them was the era that they did this in, and then their belief system. And today they're like you and I, they want more of a scientific, skeptical approach to bring hard evidence forward that will move this kind of quote unquote profession forward, as opposed to keeping it in a spiritualist sense strictly.
I think they do, but I think there's still that base where, like, you and I question things. We question everything that's put in front of us, because that's what's in our DNA. That's what we should be doing as investigators. But there's still that era, that fan base, or the guys, the people that watch TV, that they believe in what they see on TV and the movies and stuff like that. That actually happens. That's their interpretation, and it's not them being ignorant or anything like that. It's the fact that that's what they're programmed to do, because they don't know any of the wiser. But with us, us as being paranormal investigators, we see through the bullshit. We can, we question everything that's put in front of us. Like, we get pictures, you get pictures of orbs, you get pictures of ghost apps and stuff like that. Everything that's sent to me, I question, I study it, and I know every angle of what could possibly be the natural reasons of causing it. But and I also know what trickery could be involved with it as well.
Well, Peter, you and I have been accused of being too skeptical.
Who said that?
Many people, which is fine. I'd rather be accused of being too skeptical than being someone that's, oh yeah, there's a ghost everywhere and there's a demon everywhere and there's monsters. You know what I mean? Like, I take that as a badge of honor when people who are readily believe me to be too skeptical or you to be too skeptical.
I think by definition, if we were on the latter, where we were we weren't questioning what was put in front of us, we wouldn't be paranormal investigators. I think we'd be more thrill seekers or ghost hunters. And that's where the line in the sand is. If you're a paranormal investigator, you investigate what goes on. And if you're a ghost hunter, I guess that you're more in the category of being a thrill seeker. And I'll probably get shot down for that. But you tend to not question your evidence or the experiences that happen to you, because you wholeheartedly believe that, to a degree, everything is paranormal.
Agreed. Well, I think, Peter, that pretty much wraps us up this time. Our little look back at Ed and Lorrain Warren. Definitely, they made a mark on the field of paranormal investigation.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. They were originally, like, in North America, I guess, they were pioneers at their time. Like, I go back to guys in the UK a lot further back in their research and stuff like that, but potentially they put it on the map back then, in relation to probably like Most Haunted did in the UK, but obviously Most Haunted came later. But there were TV shows, there were researchers that date back a lot further back than what the Warrens actually had.
All right, well, we'll be back next month with another investigation. Until then, thank you for watching our show. Please give us a like, leave a comment, and hit the bell to receive updates on all our great content. We're an independent company, and we appreciate your support. Until then, I'm Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Peter Renn. Stay spooky.